Welcome grade 10 to the first lesson of the first unit, which is the tools of the trade. We will begin by revising certain concepts that you already know, but I'll be giving you certain shortcuts and tips. The first item we're going to be considering is expansion. And this is pretty easy. If you look at this, it's a linear times a linear. So this expression is linear. And this is linear as well. Linear in the sense that it follows the form mx plus c. And we know that when we multiply a linear times another linear, we will end up with a quadratic. Now, you know how to multiply this. You multiply them term by term, and you end up with 4 terms. You have the 7 times the 2x, which is the 14x, and the x minus 3x. So you know that there are 2 like terms, you add them and you end up with the quadratic, which is made up of 3 terms. This is all easy and you know it. But what I want to point out is that you can do this in a shortcut. Since I know that the answer is going to be a quadratic, I can think of the first term, which is the x squared term. X times 2x is 2x squared. Then the x term, I know it's going to be simplified by adding the 14x to the negative 3x, and I do this in my head. 14x minus 3x is 11x. 7 times negative 3 is minus 21. So you can write the answer straight away without writing 2 x terms and then adding them together. Note the order. We end up with the x squared term first, the x term, and then the constant. Of course, any other order will do, but it's neater and nicer to keep things arranged in the order of the powers of x. In this case, it's the descending powers of x. It's x squared first, the x, and then the constant, which is x to the 0. Let's try something else. Let's try this, for example, using the shortcut. I know that I'm going to get an x squared term, so 3x times 4x is 12x squared. The x term is the result of adding minus 20x to minus 3x, so it's minus 23x, and the constant term is going to be the product of those two, which is obviously plus 5. We can also do this. However, we need to notice that the order in this bracket is different. The x is here. So we know again that we're going to end up with a quadratic. So we ask ourselves, how can we get the x squared term? And it's obviously obtained from multiplying the 2x by the negative x, which is negative 2x squared. And how can we get the x term? The x term is obtained by multiplying the 2x by the 4, which is 8x, and the minus 3 by the minus x, which is 3x. So 3x plus 8x is 11x. And the constant term is obtained by multiplying those two, which gives us minus 12. And if you notice that my answer is still arranged in a neat order with the descending powers of x. You also know that there are other shortcuts. For example, the difference of 2 squares. Whenever you see 2 brackets that only differ by the sign, well, the x term will cancel out. In this case, the 6x will cancel out with the negative 6x, and you don't have to go through this. You simply write down the answer as 4x squared minus 9, and that's it. A difference of 2 squares. Another shortcut for expansion is the perfect square expansion. In this case, what's hiding behind the scenes is that this is x plus 4 times x plus 4. And using our shortcut, this is x squared. We have 4x and another 4x, so that's 8x. But you can think of this 8x as 2 times 4x. 2 times the 4 times the x. And this is the shortcut. 4 times 4 is 16. So let's apply the shortcut without having to write this. There is no need for that. You simply write down the first term squared, 2 times the first times the second. So 2 times the x is 2x times negative 4 is minus 8x, and then the second squared, which is again plus 16. So this is the shortcut. So whether you have a positive in the bracket or a negative, the shortcut is the first is squared, then you have 2 times the first times the second, which maintains the sign of what's in the middle of the bracket, and then the second term squared. And this is the model that you follow. X plus or minus a whole squared will give you an x squared plus or minus 2 times the first times the second plus the second squared. Let's do something else. How about this? Well, you can think of this as an expansion made up of 2 parts. There are 2 terms here. For the first part, the expansion is easy. It's 3x plus 6. And we have the minus. Please leave the 2 until the end. Think of the 2 as being multiplied by the product of those 2 brackets. And let's write out the multiplication of those 2 brackets, the product, using the shortcut. It's going to be 3x squared, 15x minus x is plus 14x minus 5. And then you notice that there's a next term here, and there's going to be a next term in the expansion as well, a constant and a constant in the expansion as well. But the x squared term exists only in this bracket. So in order to keep things neat and tidy, we can do this also by a shortcut. Rather than multiplying out this bracket and then simplifying, I can do things in my head. My first term is going to be minus 6x squared. And when I expand, I have minus 2 times 14, which is negative 28x, plus 3x, so it's minus 25x. And I also have the negative 2 times the negative 5, it's 10, plus 6 is plus 60. And that's your expansion. Now, multiplying 3 brackets is a process that's done over 2 stages. You are advised to multiply 2 brackets first, and then multiply the third bracket by the product of the first 2. And you can choose any 2 brackets to multiply out first. Personally, I would like to multiply out these first, because it seems that the numbers inside the brackets and the coefficients of x are easier. So multiplying out those 2 brackets will give me an x squared. I have 5x and an x, which gives me plus 6x. 1 times 5 is 5, so plus 5. And then this bracket is multiplied by 2x minus 3. Now, again, we notice that this is a quadratic, and this is a linear. And when you multiply a quadratic by a linear, you get a cubic, which is an expression where the highest power of x is 3. And you can go ahead and multiply the brackets term by term and then simplify what you get. But what I'm going to do is a shortcut. What I will do is ask myself, how can I get a term in x cubed? And the only way is that if you think of this x squared multiplied by 2x, and I will get 2x cubed. Now, next in turn is the x squared term. How can I get an x squared term? You can only get an x squared term if you multiply the 6x by the 2x, or the negative 3 by the x squared. So the product of those two is 12x squared minus 3x squared, and that gives you plus 9x squared. We do the same for the x term, and we can only get an x term if we multiply the 5 by 2x, or the minus 3 by the 6x. So we have 10x minus 18x, and then that gives us minus 8x. And the constant, well, there's only one way of forgetting the constant, which is 5 times negative 3, which is minus 15. Now, by all means, if you find this a little bit complicated, go ahead and multiply it term by term. But it's okay to feel confident. It's okay to try something new. It's okay to try to save time. You may make mistakes, but you'll learn. Gain confidence and try shortcuts. It's not a bad idea. Now, this concludes our lesson for today. I would like you to reflect on what you have learned, to write your own notes in the way that you like to write them, write any comments, and prepare any questions for tomorrow. Bye.